Alright guys, got another one for you. A lot of y'all's been guessing, been enjoying reading the comments, and I believe Cassie has been reading the comments. So yeah, I'm liking your all's guesses and stuff. It's been fun. We've been talking about it and looking at them, and just talking about your all's comments. So it's been fun. Uh, I got one for you today. It's called it was an encounter in Massachusetts. It says, I grew up in a small western Massachusetts town, Adams, below the Berkshire. It was July 4th, 2017, which was a waxing gibbous on that date. I worked in a cafe in a town and had been working the holiday. My shift ended around 5 o'clock, and I had plans to go to the Bellevue Cemetery with friends for some peace and quiet. I was tired of the noise from the day and wasn't interested in fireworks that night. Just a little side note, guys. I don't recommend going to a cemetery to hang out and stuff like that, especially at dark. Usually only bad things happen in the cemetery at dark. And plus, it's just not a place to be hanging out. I met up with everyone outside my house and we picked up some fast food before leaving. There were about 5 of us and we all started walking down to the cemetery, eating and chatting as we made our way to the cemetery. The cemetery wasn't huge, but it was big enough that we could find a quiet place to sit and hang out for a bit. After we got there, we were all settled under a tree. I relaxed and just listened while everyone else was talking. I was still reeling from the work and how busy the day was for me. Then that's when I noticed something moving in the distance, behind the mausoleums. I couldn't tell what I was looking at, and I figured an animal had come down from the mountain and wandered into town after smelling the barbecue. Then I saw whatever it was sprint from behind the mausoleum to the next. It was way too big to be a wolf or a mountain lion, but too fast to be anything large like a bear. I think sometimes food does lure these things into the area, and that may have been why it was there, but at the end I also have another reason I think it may be in cemeteries. She says, my friends noticed a change in the look on my face and asked me what was wrong. I didn't want to say I saw a big scary shadow running around the cemetery. I thought they'd make fun of me, so I just shrugged it off and said it was nothing, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I had just seen. Right then I saw a figure again. It printed back further into the cemetery, this time behind gravestones and then behind a tree. My curiosity got the best of me, and I played it off like I needed to go for a walk. And I think a lot of times that's what causes a lot of these encounters is people do go looking, and it's our curiosity. And like the young man that was found, they found in the water, and they said he just left. And I wonder sometimes if people see things they go to check out and they're just not saying anything because they're afraid of the ridicule that could come with it. So they go look by themselves, and then that ends up being their demise. I headed off in the direction of the shadow, then I saw it take off again. I noticed it had an unbelievably large head. I couldn't tell how tall it was, but I knew it was bigger than any of us at a quick glance, because I noticed it was bipedal, and as it walked, it looked like a very large man covered in hair. I just thought that my mind was playing tricks on me, but I was still curious. I approached the mausoleum that it had been hiding behind. I looked down to be sure not to trip and froze. There in the dirt was an enormous footprint, the size of any forearm and complete with claws, right there in the soil. That's when a cluster of leaves fell from the tree above and hit me on their way down. I heard a loud rustling too. There was no breeze. I slowly lifted my head and looked up. There, gnarling down at me, was a hideous dog creature with eyes shaped like a human but amber-colored and terrifying, piercing. This dog creature was long as the branch it was laying on, and it slowly growled at me. I ran back to my friends and told them we had to go immediately. They protested at first, but then one of them caught a glimpse of the creature jumping down from the tree. She didn't get a good look at it, only a shadow, and all she could tell is it was huge. We all grabbed our things and made our way to out of the cemetery. The friend that had seen the shadow asked me what it was. I played it off saying I didn't see any shadow, only signs of a coyote circling around. I felt scared and didn't describe the dog creature that I had seen. I no longer live in the area and haven't had any encounters with the dog creature since. My encounter maybe went a little far, as it has scared me, and I still have trouble from it to this day. I think sometimes the reason we find these creatures in the cemeteries isn't necessarily because it's just the cemetery. There's a lot of digging in there with the fresh graves and stuff, and I believe they may be able to pull the nutrients from the freshly dug soil, which makes it easier for them to get. It may not be the bodies at all. It could be the soil, it could be the grubs that are, dug up with it, the softer soil, the nutrients that come up with it. That's kind of been some of the things I've wondered. I've been in a cemetery at night before, and I have seen things moving around out there, and it seems that they do kind of, when you go in there, they'll move away, hide, try to, go to the tree line. I just don't think that's a good place to be at night. Number one, for the respect of the families. I know a lot of people, and I'm not knocking them, this is just my opinion, but a lot of people go to these cemeteries and they do their investigations, and they take their equipment there and try to get, and to me, it's, I don't know, it's kind of disrespectful to me in a way, because, and it could be the way I believe, because I believe that you're not talking to that person, you're talking to a familiar spirit, and all it's doing is it's tricking you, it's deceiving you. And we have to be careful whenever we start playing with that realm, when we get out of cryptics and we start getting into the paranormal, because it can not only affect you, it can affect your family. I mean, you can get, an attachment that can follow you home. And once they follow you home, anybody else in the house that's weak can cause trouble. In your house, it can even cause trouble. And you just don't need those things in your house. Me and a friend of mine, we've been fighting the enemy off for a long time. And it seems that, he doesn't quit. But what he doesn't realize is me and her are very strong in our beliefs. And he's not going to win. We will prevail. We know what we want. And that's just what you have to do, I believe, is, just keep it at bay and keep it binded. A lot of these creatures, I believe, do have attachments. I believe that's whenever and why you have encounters at your house, that you also have other things that don't fit the criteria to be something physical. There was a lot of things at my granny's that was very physical. We knew they were physical, but there was also things that happened at her house we knew were not physical. There was a, a figure in the pasture. It looked like an older man, they said, with a white t-shirt. And it would float through the pasture. And my uncle, actually coming back from Vietnam, had shot at it several times, and it was like it would go right through it. There was other things, the beans that fell in the kitchen. It sounded like beans fell all over the floor. They would go check. There was nothing in there. There was Grandpa, actually, whenever all the crop circles were happening, had a circle that appeared in the hog pasture and the cattails in the pond, and it was a perfect circle. They was all laid down the same way. There was a lot of things that was happening at that place that were not physical, but they didn't start happening until the physical did. That's why I believe that there's an attachment from these things to the physical. And it could be the bloodline, what these physicals are from. It could be what these physicals are. They could be looking for a body, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios I've been looking at, and I'll dive deeper into that. But I just want to kind of share some of that with you. And I don't know, it was an interesting story, and I have a lot of thought, as to why that might be happening. And I dropped you all a little hint in the video. I'm sure a lot of you is going to catch it. But yeah, I think that stay out of cemeteries at night, stay out of the dark woods at night, and just be careful. I appreciate y'all watching, as always. My Abnormal Family, we are putting out a lot of videos, it seems like, this week, but I've just found a lot that I wanted to share. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be careful, keep your head on a swivel, and don't be something's meal.